The transport ship's hull groaned as it docked with the slaver vessel. Dr. Elena Reyes huddled in the corner of her holding cell, the metallic taste of fear sharp on her tongue. Just 3 days ago, she had been leading a research expedition on Proxima b, collecting samples of the indigenous flora. Now she was cargo. "Stand up, human," a gravelly voice commanded as the cell door slid open. A Vexarian guard, skin mottled purple and gray, gestured with what appeared to be a neural prod. Elena had studied enough xenoanthropology to recognize the species, and their reputation for enjoying others' pain. She rose slowly, legs weak from the sedatives they'd pumped into her system after the ambush. "There's been a mistake," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm Dr. Elena Reyes, lead xenobiologist for the Terran Science Division. My capture violates 16 different interstellar treaties." The Vexarian's mouth split in what might have been a smile, revealing needle-sharp teeth. "Treaties don't reach this far into the outer rim, human. Now move." Elena was herded along with a dozen other captives, some human, other species she recognized only from database entries. They were marched into a large chamber that reeked of antiseptic and fear. "The auction block. This is illegal," a young human man whispered beside her. "The Alliance will come for us." Elena didn't have the heart to tell him that the Alliance rarely ventured this deep into unclaimed space. They were on their own. A holographic display activated above each captive, scrolling with information, medical status, skills, estimated value. Elena felt sick as she saw her own credentials being used to increase her price. Her expertise made her valuable. The auction proceeded with brutal efficiency. One by one, the captives were sold to the highest bidder. Some went to mining consortiums, others to pleasure houses. Elena tried to keep her breathing steady as the numbers dwindled until she was the only one left. "Our final offering," announced the auctioneer, a sleek Kaldorian with 6 arms gesturing enthusiastically. A human female of exceptional intelligence. Trained in xenobiology with additional knowledge of genetics and biochemistry. Perfectly suited for research facilities or private collections. Bidding starts at 50,000 credits. The holographic numbers above the auction block climbed rapidly. Elena scanned the buyers, trying to gauge which might be the least horrific option, when a hush fell over the chamber. A massive figure entered from a private viewing box, towering at least 7 feet tall with broad shoulders covered in iridescent scales that shifted from emerald to obsidian. His face was angular, with vertical pupils in amber eyes and a small ridge of spines running along his skull instead of hair. "The bidding is closed," the auctioneer announced, suddenly deferential. "Lord Krell has expressed interest." Whispers erupted around the room. Even Elena had heard of Krell, a warlord from the Dracona system, known for his ruthlessness and vast collection of rare specimens. Her heart pounded against her ribs as he approached, studying her with those unnerving predator eyes. "This one," he said, his voice surprisingly smooth and deep. "Transfer the credits." "An excellent choice, my lord," the auctioneer simpered. Krell didn't respond. He gestured, and a collar was placed around Elena's neck, not tight enough to choke, but secure enough to remind her of her new status. A small device was pressed into his scaled palm. "Follow," he ordered, turning without checking if she obeyed. Elena followed, head high despite the terror coursing through her veins. She was a scientist, an observer. She would watch, learn, and find a way to escape. No matter what horrors awaited her as the property of a monster. As they boarded his private shuttle, Krell spoke without turning. "You will find, Dr. Reyes, that things are not always what they seem in this part of the galaxy." Elena wondered if that was a threat or a promise as the shuttle doors sealed behind them, carrying her toward an uncertain fate. Krell's ship, the Obsidian Claw, was nothing like Elena had expected. Instead of a prison, her quarters resembled a comfortable apartment. No bars on the windows that looked out into the vast expanse of space, no restraints aside from the collar that encircled her neck. "You are free to move about these rooms," Krell had informed her upon arrival. "The collar is merely a precaution. It will not harm you unless you attempt to enter restricted areas." 3 days had passed since then. 3 days of pacing, of testing boundaries, of trying to understand her captor's intentions. Food appeared through an automated delivery system, actual Earth cuisine, not the nutrient paste she'd expected. A datapad provided entertainment and information, though no communication capabilities. Elena sat cross-legged on the viewport ledge, watching distant stars streak by. She'd catalogued every possible escape route, every potential weapon, every weakness in the security system. There weren't many. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Krell entered, ducking his massive frame through the doorway. Up close, his scales were even more beautiful, like polished stones that caught and reflected light in hypnotic patterns. "Have your accommodations been satisfactory, Dr. Reyes?" he asked, those vertical pupils dilating slightly as they adjusted to the room's lighting. "They're lovely for a prison," Elena replied, refusing to show fear. "Though I still don't understand why you've brought me here. If you need a xenobiologist, you could have hired one legitimately." Krell's expression was difficult to read, but something like amusement flickered across his features. "Would you believe me if I said I was saving you?" Elena laughed bitterly. "From what? A different slave master? How noble." "Precisely." Krell moved to the viewport, keeping a respectful distance between them. The buyers at that auction included representatives from the Tarshan mines, where humans rarely survive more than 6 months, and collectors who would have dissected you for your genetic material. Elena felt a chill run through her. "And what do you plan to do with me?" Instead of answering, Krell touched a panel on his wrist. The collar around Elena's neck clicked open, falling away into his outstretched hand. "I plan to offer you a choice," he said, setting the collar aside. "You can remain here as my guest until we reach the Alferian border, where I can arrange safe passage back to Alliance space. Or..." He hesitated. "Or what?" Elena prompted, rubbing her neck where the collar had been. "Or you can help me destroy the slave network that captured you." Elena stared at him in disbelief. "I don't understand." Krell's jaw tightened. "I am not what the galaxy believes me to be, Dr. Reyes. My reputation as a collector and warlord is a carefully constructed facade. In reality, I work with an underground coalition to dismantle slave operations throughout the Outer Rim." "That's convenient," Elena said skeptically. Krell's laugh was unexpectedly warm. "Your suspicion is warranted. Come with me. There's something you should see." Against her better judgment, Elena followed him through corridors of the ship she hadn't been allowed to access before. They entered what appeared to be a medical bay, where about 20 beings of various species were receiving treatment. "Former slaves," Krell explained quietly. "Rescued from a mining operation 3 cycles ago. We're taking them to sanctuary outposts." A small child with blue skin and enormous eyes looked up from a medical bed, waving shyly at Krell. The warlord's expression softened as he returned the gesture. "Why tell me this?" Elena asked, trying to process the contradiction between the fearsome warlord of legend and the man before her. "Why show me?" "Because I need your help," Krell admitted. "Your credentials grant you access to research facilities and diplomatic functions that I cannot enter without suspicion. There's a major auction being planned, with high-ranking officials involved. With your help, we could expose them all." Elena studied his face, searching for deception. "And if I refuse?" "Then, as I said, you'll be taken to the border and released. No conditions." Elena looked around the medical bay, at the recovering slaves, at the care being provided. She thought of her comfortable quarters, the unlocked collar, the respectful distance Krell maintained. "This is dangerous," she said finally. Krell's amber eyes met hers. Extraordinarily. I could be killed. Or worse, recaptured. Yes. Elena took a deep breath. Tell me more about this auction. For the first time, she saw Krell smile, a strange sight on his alien features, but somehow warming. Perhaps over dinner? The chef has prepared an Earth delicacy called pasta, that I'm told is quite good. Despite everything, Elena found herself smiling back. I'd like that. As they left the medical bay, Elena glanced back at the rescued slaves. Whatever game she was playing now, whatever risks lay ahead, she knew one thing with certainty: Krell was not the monster she had feared. And that realization was more disorienting than anything else that had happened since her capture. The grand ballroom of Station Elysium glittered with wealth and power. Crystalline chandeliers floated midair, their light refracting through anti-gravity fields. Elena moved through the crowd with practiced elegance, her emerald gown, tailored to perfection, flowing around her like liquid. No one would suspect she was here as a spy rather than a guest. Remember, Krell's voice murmured through the microscopic communicator in her ear. Ambassador Thrix is the key. If anyone knows the location of the auction manifests, it's him. Elena took a flute of champagne from a passing server, using the motion to scan the room. I see him. Northern corner, speaking with the Centaurian delegation. The past 2 weeks aboard the Obsidian Claw had transformed Elena's understanding of the galaxy, and of Krell. Each day revealed new facets of his operation: the network of informants, the safe houses across 12 systems, the careful accounting of every soul rescued and relocated. She had studied his organization with the same scientific precision she once applied to alien ecosystems. Dr. Reyes, a melodious voice, called out. What a pleasant surprise. Elena turned to find herself face to face with Ambassador Thrix, a tall, elegant being with silvery skin and eyes that shifted color with his mood. Currently, they were a calculating amber. Ambassador, she greeted him with a practiced smile. I didn't expect to find you so far from the core worlds. One must occasionally venture beyond the comfortable to find true opportunity, he replied. I heard you were captured by slavers. An unfortunate incident. Elena maintained her composure despite the chill that ran through her. News travels quickly. As does your recovery. Lord Krell's intervention was unexpected. His tastes usually run to rarer specimens, not human scientists. Perhaps I have hidden values, Elena suggested, sipping her champagne. Thrix's eyes shifted to a deep blue. Indeed. Many of us do. He leaned closer. I would be interested to learn what Krell sees in you. Perhaps over a private conversation? Through her earpiece, Elena heard Krell's voice tighten. Be careful. This is too easy. But the opportunity was too perfect to ignore. I'd be delighted, Ambassador. Thrix guided her through a side door into a luxurious private study. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the stunning view of the nebula beyond the station. Thrix gestured to a seating area, but Elena moved to the window instead. Magnificent, isn't it? She said. The universe contains such wonders, and such horrors. Philosophy from a scientist? Thrix chuckled, pouring himself a drink. Krell has influenced you. Elena turned to face him. You know him well? Well enough to know he is not what he appears. Thrix's eyes shifted to a dangerous red. Just as you are not what you appear, Dr. Reyes. Elena's pulse quickened as Thrix touched a panel on his wrist. The door locked with an ominous click. You're not here for the social season, Thrix continued. You're here for information. About the auction. I don't know what you're talking about, Elena said steadily, though her mind raced through escape scenarios. Thrix smiled, a predatory expression. Krell has been interfering with our operations for too long. But he's clever, no evidence, no traces. Using you, though, that was careless. Elena, Krell's voice was urgent in her ear. Get out of there. Now. I'm not working for Krell, Elena lied smoothly. I'm conducting research on interspecies trade dynamics. Perfectly legitimate. Then you won't mind if security examines your credentials more thoroughly? Thrix reached for a communication panel. Elena moved swiftly, employing the defensive maneuvers Krell had taught her. Her elbow connected with Thrix's midsection, a vulnerable point in his species' anatomy. He doubled over, gasping. She grabbed his wrist device and pressed her thumb against its scanner. Voice authorization override, she commanded. Access primary files. To her surprise, it worked. Thrix hadn't expected her to know about the universal override codes used by diplomatic corps. The device projected a holographic display of data. Download complete, she murmured for Krell's benefit as she scanned the information. Time to leave. But Thrix had recovered enough to slam a hand against a hidden alarm. Sirens wailed throughout the station. Elena. Krell's voice was frantic now. Secondary extraction point. Move. She ran for the door, which opened automatically during security alerts. The hallway beyond was chaos as guards rushed toward the study. Elena blended into the panicked crowd, moving against the flow toward the service corridors. A firm hand gripped her arm. She turned, ready to fight, only to find Krell, somehow having infiltrated the station despite the risk. I told you to go to the extraction point, she hissed as he pulled her into an alcove. Plans change, he replied grimly, his scales darkening with tension. They knew we were coming. Someone betrayed us. Their eyes met, and Elena felt something shift between them, beyond partnership, beyond the mission. In the midst of danger, she recognized the truth she'd been avoiding, she cared for him. This alien who had purchased her freedom, who fought daily against the galaxy's cruelties, who now risked everything to ensure her safety. We need to move, Krell said, though his gaze lingered on her face. The information you gathered, it's everything we need to bring down the entire network. Then let's finish this, Elena replied, surprising herself by reaching out to touch his scaled cheek. Together. Around them, alarms blared and security forces mobilized. But in that moment, the danger only crystallized what had been building between them, an impossible, interspecies connection that defied logic and circumstance. Krell leaned into her touch, his amber eyes intense. Together, he agreed, his voice a rumble that seemed to vibrate through her. Then they were running again, toward an uncertain escape and the promise of justice, and perhaps something more neither had dared to imagine. Plasma fire scorched the wall inches from Elena's head as she ducked behind a cargo container. The hangar bay of Krell's supposedly secure safehouse had become a killing field. Somehow, the slavers had found them, again. We can't keep running, she shouted to Krell, who was returning fire from behind a damaged shuttle. They're tracking us somehow. 3 weeks had passed since their narrow escape from Station Elysium. 3 weeks of analyzing the stolen data, of piecing together the sprawling network that connected seemingly legitimate businesses to the slave trade. 3 weeks of growing closer in ways that transcended physical differences. The northern exit is still clear, Krell called back, his powerful frame moving with surprising grace as he laid down cover fire. If we split up. No. Elena's response was immediate and fierce. That's not happening. Krell's expression softened momentarily before hardening with resolve. Then stay close. They moved in tandem, a rhythm developed through shared danger and trust. Elena no longer saw his alien features as strange, the scales, the amber eyes, the impressive height. She saw only Krell, the being who had revealed to her a universe more complex than she had ever imagined. They reached the shuttle bay doors, Krell inputting the emergency override codes. The doors remained sealed. They've locked us out of the system, he growled, slamming a fist against the control panel. Elena quickly pulled out her portable decoder. "Give me 30 seconds." While she worked, Krell maintained a defensive position. A cry of pain made her look up. A plasma bolt had grazed his shoulder, leaving a smoking wound across his scales. "I'm fine," he insisted before she could speak. "Focus." The decoder beeped success, and the doors slid open to reveal their escape route. They ran through corridors toward the emergency shuttle, hope rising with each step. Almost there, Elena gasped as they rounded the final corner. They froze. Standing before the shuttle was Malira, Krell's most trusted lieutenant, surrounded by armed mercenaries. "I was wondering when you'd arrive," Malira said, her blue-tinged skin luminescent under the emergency lighting. "You're becoming predictable, Krell." Understanding dawned on Elena with sickening clarity. "It was you. You've been betraying us all along." "The slave trade is too profitable to dismantle," Malira replied with a shrug. "And your little crusade was becoming inconvenient." Krell's voice was dangerously quiet. "We trusted you. All those people we saved trusted you. And now they'll return to where they belong," Malira gestured, and the mercenaries raised their weapons. "You, however, won't be so fortunate. The slave masters want your head, Krell. As for the human, she'll fetch a good price." Elena felt Krell tense beside her, his body coiling like a predator preparing to strike. His voice dropped to a whisper meant only for her. "When I move, run for the shuttle." "Not without you," she whispered back. The look he gave her conveyed everything words could not: care, fear, determination. "Please, Elena." Before she could respond, Krell lunged forward with impossible speed, his massive form crashing into the group of mercenaries. Chaos erupted as plasma fire filled the corridor. Elena hesitated only a moment before running toward the unguarded emergency shuttle, her heart splitting in two. She reached the ramp, turning to see Krell fighting with primal ferocity despite multiple wounds. "Krell," she screamed. He looked up, meeting her eyes across the hangar. "Go." Instead, Elena ducked into the shuttle, activating the emergency protocols. The shuttle's weapon systems came online, targeting the mercenaries surrounding Krell. She fired without hesitation, scattering them with precision blasts. In the confusion, Krell broke free, sprinting toward the shuttle. Malira raised her weapon, aiming at his back. Elena fired again, the blast catching Malira in the shoulder. She went down, her face contorted with rage. Krell leaped aboard, and Elena slammed the ramp controls. The shuttle's engines roared to life as they collapsed together on the deck, wounded but alive. "You should have left," Krell said hoarsely, green blood seeping from multiple injuries. Elena began applying emergency medical measures, her hands steadied despite her racing heart. "Not a chance. They'll follow us," he warned, wincing as she sealed a particularly nasty wound on his chest. "Let them try." Elena met his gaze with fierce determination. "The data from Elysium, I uploaded it to every major news network in the galaxy before we evacuated. Right now, the names of every official involved in the slave trade are being broadcast across Alliance space." Krell's eyes widened. "You didn't tell me." "Contingency plan," she explained, a small smile playing on her lips despite the danger they still faced. "I learned from the best." For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the reality of their situation, and their feelings, impossible to ignore. Then Krell reached out, his scaled hand gently touching her cheek. "Elena," he began, his voice rough with emotion. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his in an intimate gesture that transcended their physiological differences. "I know," she whispered. Beyond the viewport, stars streaked by as they escaped into the unknown, fugitives now from both the slavers and their allies in high places. But they were together, and for the moment, that was enough. 1 year later, the garden terrace of the small villa on Proxima Centauri's fourth moon bloomed with both Earth and Draconis flora, an impossible harmony of species never meant to grow side by side. Just like its caretakers. Elena knelt in the soil, pressing her fingers into the rich loam as she planted seedlings from her home world. The warm breeze carried the scent of the alien blossoms Krell had imported, their iridescent petals catching the light of the binary stars overhead. The Caucasian orchids are thriving, Krell noted as he joined her, his massive frame casting a shadow across the garden. They shouldn't survive in this atmosphere. Elena smiled up at him, pushing a strand of hair from her face and leaving a smudge of dirt on her cheek. Life finds a way. Especially when it's stubborn. Krell's scaled hand gently wiped the soil from her skin, the touch lingering in a way that still sent warmth through her. After a year together, the novelty of their differences had faded, replaced by a deeper appreciation of their similarities, their passion for justice, their scientific curiosity, their unwavering loyalty. "The Alliance Committee has approved our proposal," he said, helping her to her feet. "The Interspecies Coalition for Liberation will receive full funding and diplomatic protection." Elena's face lit up. "That's wonderful. When did you hear?" "This morning. Admiral Chen sends her regards, and a formal pardon for our questionable methods in exposing the slave network." They walked together through the garden toward the villa that had become their home, a sanctuary purchased under false identities, hidden from those who still might seek revenge for the collapse of the slave trade. "A pardon," Elena mused. "Does that mean we can stop looking over our shoulders?" "Perhaps," Krell replied cautiously. "Though old habits are difficult to break." Inside, the villa was a blend of their worlds, human furniture modified for Krell's proportions, draconian artifacts alongside Elena's scientific equipment. A home neither had expected to find, especially with each other. Elena moved to the communication terminal, where reports from across the galaxy continued to document the aftermath of their exposé. Hundreds of officials had been arrested. Thousands of slaves had been freed. The system hadn't been destroyed completely, no corrupt system ever was, but it had been deeply wounded. "I received a message from Jorel," she said, referencing one of the children they had rescued on Krell's ship that first week. "He's been accepted to the Science Academy on Terran Prime." Krell's expression softened with pride. "He overcame much to achieve that." "We all did," Elena said quietly, turning to face him. "I still think about that auction sometimes. How different everything would be if someone else had purchased me." "I prefer not to consider such alternatives," Krell admitted, moving closer to her. "Though I regret the circumstances, I cannot regret the outcome." Elena reached for his hand, her small fingers intertwining with his scaled ones in the intimate gesture that had become theirs. "Nor can I." The terminal chimed with an incoming transmission, a priority message from their network of operatives still working to dismantle what remained of the slave trade. "Should we answer?" Elena asked. "We could ignore it, just for today." Krell considered this, his amber eyes studying her face. "Once, I would have said no. The mission always came first." His free hand gently traced the line of her jaw. "You have changed me, Elena Reyes." "As you have changed me," she replied softly. For a moment they stood in silence, acknowledging the extraordinary journey that had brought them together, from captive and captor to partners in every sense. The terminal chimed again, more insistently. Krell sighed, a surprisingly human sound. "Perhaps we should see what they need. Then we can return to our garden." Elena nodded, but held him back momentarily. "Whatever comes next, whatever battles remain to be fought, we face them together." "Together," Krell agreed, the word carrying the weight of a vow. As they turned to answer the call, Elena reflected on the strange path that had led her here. She had been captured, made a slave, only to find a freedom more profound than any she had known before, the freedom to love across boundaries of species and experience, to build something new in a universe that too often destroyed. Outside, the impossible garden continued to flourish under alien suns, a living testament to what could grow when given the chance, even in the most unlikely soil.